Hello, everybody. Welcome back once again. This is Season 3, Episode number unlucky 13 of Empire State Hoops. I'm your host, Adam Rothschild, and alongside me is my co-host, Marquise Frias, here once again with us today. And I'll tell you one thing about the New York Knicks lately. It has been up and down. It has been a roller coaster that I do not want to be on right now. And for us Knicks fans, I don't even know what to say about this stretch, and we're going to break it down all for you today, of course.
The unlucky 13 is a perfect number and the perfect episode name for this episode, just because of the absolute, I don't even know what to call it, that we just seen last week, but we're going to get into all that today. But, I mean, this is going to be a very eventful episode for sure.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a lot of just, oh my God, what in the world did we do? What is happening? This team has to figure things out. But of course, this episode of Empire State Hoops is powered by Sport Pros USA. For more information, visit sportprosusa.com or call 877-HOOPS-NJ to make your dream court a reality today. So, let's start things off with the New York Knicks and the Golden State Warriors this past Saturday, of course. Warriors beat the Knicks 97-94. Karl-Anthony Towns with 29, 12, and 3. OG Anunoby with 23, 9, and 2. Mikal Bridges with 19, 6, and 3. But the problem is, you're without Jalen Brunson. You're playing Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green and the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors put the Knicks to sleep.
Yeah, it was, I'm fine with this game, honestly. This wasn't that bad of a loss to me. We're without Jalen Brunson. Obviously, we know we're going to be shorthanded with that. But it's also, we were pretty competitive in this game, which is not something that you see a lot from the Knicks when it comes down to playing some of the best teams in the league. The Warriors are 6th right now, but I think we can all say that they haven't been playing like a 6th seed right now. So I believe the way they've been playing right now, they're probably like around a top 3 seed in the West. But nonetheless, I wasn't too mad at this game. Karl-Anthony Towns, he had a big night, 29 and 12, but there was really no other production other than OG Anunoby, who I said on, I believe, a previous episode that almost any time that OG scores over 20, we're going to be competitive. So we saw that there. We're just not able to pull it out. Draymond Green, out of all people, has that driving dunk that pretty much is the dagger for the Warriors, which out of all people, Draymond Green is silencing the Knicks. So I'm not too mad at this game, but there's more games down here that I'm going to save my energy for with the rant. So I'm not too mad about this game.
Do not worry. The rants are coming. We know what we need to talk about, and it's bad. This game was okay. I can understand you're playing against a very good contending team. But getting to this next game, I think against the Miami Heat, the Knicks realized you're on ESPN on a Monday night.
In the Garden, too.
Yes, absolutely. In the Garden, too. So you had to find a way to bounce back against a Heat team that lost Jimmy Butler and is really just trying to figure it out. And they've lost several games in a row. It's probably the longest, I believe it's the longest losing streak that Eric Spoelstra has been on as the head coach of the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
So under his tenure, of course, since...
That's actually crazy to believe.
And he's been there for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Just under 20 years now he's been there now, which is impressive. But for the Knicks in this game, they beat the Heat 116-95. The story of this game was Karl-Anthony Towns with that 15-0 run, scoring 15 straight points. 15, which is incredible. But besides that, Mikal Bridges, 28 points. Karl-Anthony Towns, as we mentioned, 23 points, 7 and 3. He went on his own 15-0 run, managed to keep Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero in check. And Robinson, which Robinson were you referring to? Duncan Robinson. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were referring to Mitch Robinson, who had 22. What? I was going to say.
That's the thing about the New York Knicks and this defense. We're going to sound like a complete broken record. I mean, defense has been the word probably most used in this entire podcast since the start of this season for the Knicks. But the difference with defense that we struggle with is we're sometimes stopping their best players, but we're letting players like Duncan Robinson score 22 points. Duncan Robinson is not as elite of a shooter as he was before, around the 2020, 2021 years, but still, this shouldn't be happening. And we have a lot more performances. We have a lot more performances we're going to go over in this episode that should not have happened, but 22 points from Duncan Robinson, I don't think that's acceptable. I didn't really pay attention to see who drew that matchup that much, and I assume it wouldn't be either Mikal Bridges or OG Anunoby, but still, I'm happy that we were able to come back from the Garden after our West Coast trip. This could have been a very easy trap game for the Knicks, as you're coming back home from a long trip with not a successful trip, that being back in the Garden against a lackluster team on primetime television. This could have easily been a trap game for the Knicks, but I'm glad we were able to pull it out. Karl-Anthony Towns being dominant as well, so it was a good sign to see this win for the Knicks for sure.
But now it just leads into more questions that we just have to answer about this Knicks team. And the difference in the stats with and without Jalen Brunson is unbelievable.
I don't think it could even be chalked up to the stats. I think visually, when you look at the Knicks, they sometimes look lost out there without their captain. And it's kind of disheartening to see, because you have all these players like Mikal Bridges, who we know can take over a game and really be that focal point for a team. You have other players like Deuce McBride, who's a young player, we all know, but he's been able to show that at times he could take charge and be able to lead an offense. I remember a couple times last year in the playoffs, more specifically in that second round series between the Pacers, he sometimes took charge when Jalen Brunson was subbed out of the game. So we haven't been able to see that just yet with the absence of Jalen Brunson, and it's truly disheartening. But nonetheless, this was a good win just to see where the Knicks were after that West Coast trip.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you alluded to what you said, of course, it kind of leads into the next point, where now the rants you've been waiting for, let's just get to them with the New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs. This is a game where you talk about you have no De'Aaron Fox. Victor Wembanyama's out for the season. Greg Popovich is not even on the sidelines, but of course we hope he's feeling better soon, hopefully, sure. Of course. Yeah. But let's get to the point. Spurs beat the Knicks 120-105. This was kind of close game in the beginning, but then you let the Spurs pull away. The Knicks collapsed in that third quarter.
Yeah.
But regardless, your only offense was Karl-Anthony Towns, 32 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. And this, like I said, a non-Wemby and De'Aaron Fox lineup just beat the Knicks. You want to get to the point you were about to say?
6 players in double figures for the Spurs, that being Devin Vassell with 10 points, Harrison Barnes with 11 points, Jeremy Sohan with 10 points, Chris Paul with 12 points, Stephon Castle with 22 points, and Sandro with a last name that I'm not going to even try to pronounce. All respect to him, I just genuinely can't pronounce that name. 34 points in 19 minutes with 9 rebounds. I tuned into this game around the midway point through the fourth quarter just because I wanted to see what actually was happening with the Knicks, why we were losing to the Spurs. I clocked into the game, and Sandro had 26 points. This dude put up 8 more points in the final 2 minutes that I watched the game. And Karl-Anthony Towns was on him during that entire 2 minutes. He genuinely looked unstoppable against Karl-Anthony Towns. Sandro, I'm going to try to say it now, but Mamu Kalishvili, I hope I said that right, just scored 34 points in 19 minutes against the New York Knicks. That's all that should be said, and that's all. Like, this game was just so wow to me. And the fact that I saw Sandro put up that many points in the way that he did it, because he went 6 for 6 from the 3-point too. And, like, I guess he's a shooter. He definitely doesn't look it, but he just did that to the Knicks. I literally stood there in utter silence and shock of what I was watching. This was just horrible. This is one of the worst, honestly, one of the worst games I've watched as a New York Knicks fan, for sure.
Yeah, I could say the same here. Basically, my story, I watched the first half. I was very disappointed. With March Madness, I need to watch college basketball to make me feel happy. And that's exactly what I did. I watched Xavier in the second half after the Knicks collapsed. So that's basically what I did.
Thank God for March Madness, because if there was no March Madness right now and the Knicks were playing this bad still, I think I would have resort to a different sport other than basketball. So I'm surprised that I'm even interested in basketball after genuinely what I've seen from the Knicks here. It's genuinely heartbreaking and very disappointing to see as a Knicks fan.
And thank God we have baseball season coming back.
That too.
Yeah, 6 days. 6 days till the Yankees, 6 days till...
I am a Yankees fan.
All right, perfect. Okay. Cool. Good to know. All right, so we are not done with the rants yet. We have another game that we need to talk about. And the very next night, they head to Charlotte to take on the Hornets, who, going into this game, have won 17 games. One of the worst teams in the NBA. You're the Knicks. You go in there. You need to take care of business. The problem is they did not. Just like it was just like the second half against the Spurs. No execution, and Josh Hart even said it himself in the postgame. It's execution. It's just not having the confidence to be out there. Nothing is going well for this Knicks team, of course. And like we said, it was a back-to-back game. The Knicks are 5-6 in back-to-back games.
So I wanted to talk about that firstly, just because honestly, I thought that was a way worse of a stat when I first researched it. I thought it was gonna be like more like 1 in 11 games, so like 1 in 10, if anything. But 5-6 is not what I thought it was gonna be. But the interesting part about those 5 games is that all 5 wins are by 6 points or less, except for one, and that being a matchup against the Wizards earlier in the year. So all 5 wins have been pretty close games, you could say, with that 6 point max differential. And then all the other games, those 6 losses have been mostly blowouts for the Knicks, or for the opposing teams on the Knicks. So that was just an interesting point I saw there. This obviously being a back-to-back with the Hornets, but again, you talk about the Hornets, the Knicks defense, and they couldn't contain the Hornets at all. You had 5 players in double digits scoring for the Hornets, and that includes Nick Smith Jr. with 13 points. Daquan Jeffries, this name sounds familiar, and if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he on our G League team at one point last year?
And he was on the Knicks roster last season.
Yeah, okay, so he gets back at us with 14 points. Mark Williams, that's not that surprising with 19 points, but 19 points and 14 boards against Karl Anthony Towns again. This defense is truly eye-opening to me, and we knew it before that this wasn't the same defensive team that we saw last year, more specifically in the playoffs, but this kind of just shuts down that whole narrative as a whole. This team is not even a defensive team at all. The whole purpose of this New York Knicks team is, in my opinion, to try to explode on offense and to do just enough on defense. The problem with that is that when you don't do enough on offense and you're keeping up trying to do just enough on defense, you're not going to win many games. And 98 points for the Knicks. They only shot 40% from the field goal. It's 25% from 3. This is just not the team that nobody was predicting to see in this late of a year this late in the year for the Knicks. It's absolutely disappointing.
I'm not gonna lie, you literally just summed up last season for the New York Jets. The offense was mediocre. The defense was mediocre. That's literally what you just did. And,
I mean, we could say the same about my team too, with the Giants. So it's not too unfamiliar for me with football, but I mean, you say it, man. Like this New York Knicks team, it's genuinely giving me headaches sometimes.
It's just been a horrible stretch of games. We don't even know what questions. We can't even answer these questions.
That's what's so scary to me. I just genuinely don't know why this team is not playing good. I mean, more specifically on the defensive side, because I can understand it missing shots. Not everyone's going to go 30 from 30 from the 3, but at the same time on defense, we have one of the best younger perimeter defenders at the point guard position in Deuce McBride. 2 of the best on-ball wing defenders in the league, or what we thought they were, Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. Josh Hart is not that bad a defender as well. He's not known to be for his defense, but he can for sure get some stops on defense. And then Karl Anthony Towns with his length, again, he's not known to be a defensive player, but length alone in a Tom Thibodeau type team is going to for sure come a long way, and we just have not seen that at all for the Knicks. So once again, it's just very disappointing to see.
Yeah, and it's going to be a matter of bouncing back with this last stretch of the season, because eventually they're going to have to play the Celtics again. They're going to have to play the Cavs again still in April. So we'll get to that when that comes around the corner. But coming up after the break, we're going to preview 3 more games for you for the New York Knicks coming up. Those will be the Washington Wizards, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Los Angeles Clippers coming up on the New York Knicks schedule. So we'll be right back here after the break on Season 3, Episode number 13 of Empire State Hoops. We'll be right back.
Hey there, basketball fans. Are you ready to take your love for the game to a whole new level? Well, listen up. We've got something that will make your hoop dreams come true. Introducing Sport Pros USA, the ultimate destination for all your backyard sport court needs. Whether you're a diehard Knicks fan or just looking for some slam dunk fun with your family, Sport Pros USA has got you covered. Picture this, it's a sunny afternoon in New York, and you step out onto your very own custom-built backyard basketball court. The court where legends are born and memories are made. A court where you can unleash your inner baller and shoot hoops like your favorite Knicks players. But it's not just about basketball. It's about family, friends, and fun. Whether you're hosting a game of horse with your buddies or teaching your kids how to dribble and shoot, Sport Pros USA brings the magic of the game right to your doorstep. Our courts are more than just a place to play. They're a place to connect, bond, and create unforgettable moments. And with Sport Pros USA, you can have it all, right in your own backyard. We're not just building courts, we're building dreams. Dreams of buzzer beaters, comebacks, and endless laughter. So why wait? Give us a call at 877-HOOPS-NJ or visit sportprosusa.com today to start designing your very own backyard basketball court. Remember, at Sport Pros USA, we believe that every home deserves a court, and every family deserves the joy of playing together. So don't just watch the game, be a part of it.
And we are back here once again. This is Season 3, Episode number 13, The Unlucky Number. Once again here, I'm your host, Adam Rothschild, and alongside me is my co-host, Marquise Frias, here on the show with us today. So once again, we recapped what seems like the questions that we can't answer about the New York Knicks, about their defense against several opponents. The crazy ones were, of course, the Spurs and the Hornets that we just previously talked about prior. But now we're going to preview the next 3 games coming up on the schedule, starting off with this coming Saturday. It'll be the New York Knicks against the Washington Wizards. One of the worst teams in the league, but we cannot say that really guaranteed because on paper they're the worst team in the league, really. But in reality, we can't really say if the Knicks are going to win this game or not because we predicted against Spurs and Hornets, easy win. We were the ones getting blown out, so we can't really say the same about that for this game, really.
I think it's like you said, you took the words right out of my mouth. This is a hard game to tell if we're going to beat the Washington Wizards, just because how we've been playing these last couple of games. Obviously, losses to the Hornets and to the Spurs back-to-back nights is not promising at all for a matchup against the Wizards. I'm hoping that for the best. I'm expecting the worst out of the Knicks. Once again, I'm hoping that we can win this. But it's it's genuinely disheartening to say that I don't know if we're going to beat the Washington Wizards in a basketball game tomorrow night. It's very disappointing to say that.
Because the problem is the really good teams, they don't lose these kinds of games. The Lakers don't lose these kinds of games. The Nuggets don't lose these kinds of games. It's you got to be the team that wins the games you're supposed to win. Last year, the Knicks did that. This year, This year, they're not doing that.
And we knew it was going to be a rough couple of dog days with the Knicks without Jalen Brunson. But did we really think it was going to be this bad? No. And that's where you really see either a culture shift or just like a mindset shift within the entire locker room, within the entire front office for this team. And I'm hoping that starts tomorrow night against the Washington Wizards. But it's gonna be very interesting just to see, how we bounce back from, you talked about Josh Hart and his post-game conference and how that's really probably a resemblance of how the entire team is feeling after this rough stretch of games. But it's really just all about seeing how we can perform against the Washington Wizards, which is so surprising to me to say.
And that's going to lead into the next 2 opponents, which I think are going to be a little bit more tougher, I think, despite what the Dallas Mavericks have gone through this year. I mean, I'll tell you what. Shout out to Nico Harrison for just letting Quentin Grimes walk. He dropped like 46 the other night for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So what a nice job. Nico Harrison, you let Luka Doncic walk. Great. I'm so proud of you. You get Anthony Davis. Gets hurt the first game. Is he going to come back? Are you guys going to make the play-in? I don't know. But I did say, it's funny, I did say this on the WQSU Sports Show last night about the Mavericks potentially playing the Thunder in the first round of the playoffs.
That's a very interesting dynamic to me. We talked about it as well. This entire Western Conference standings right now, it's going to be very interesting coming down to the wire with only a few games remaining on the schedule. So I would like to see the Mavericks come back. Just for little lulls and stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. We have seen if you think our lives are bad right now as Knicks fans, these Mavericks fans are on a whole nother level with just what they've been going through these past couple of months. Like I said, look, this is to me a little bit similar with the Wizards. This should be an easy win game, but with how we've been playing, it's not easy to say that. So once again, I'm gonna chalk it up to another toss up, just because this is a should win game for the Knicks. But with how we've been playing, we just don't know how they're gonna come out. I believe, when is this game? This is on Tuesday. So we're just gonna need to see how they come out Tuesday night.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with Dallas and their struggles this year, they're trying their best to stay within the play-in, because there's a chance they could get Anthony Davis back towards the end of the season, despite him getting hurt in his first game as a Dallas Maverick. But we'll see what happens with that. Of course, obviously he's not going to play on Tuesday. But
I probably doubt it with that. So
because he's been out for a while, so probably towards the end of the season, maybe get him some rest back in before they get to the play-in tournament, if they hold on to their spot there. And closing it out with this final game, the Knicks played the Clippers recently over their West Coast road trip. That was their game right after they played the Lakers. They lost that game. They could not stop James Harden, could not stop Kawhi Leonard, could not stop Zubats in the low post. So, once again, it starts that stretch of more competitive games, and it leads into, of course, the Milwaukee Bucks after this, which we're not going to get to today, unfortunately, but it's the stretch of competitive games for the Knicks, and it's going to be tough without Brunson, as we've been saying this whole time. It's been bad against bad opponents. Does it get worse against competitive opponents?
I, once again, can't answer that question, just because this Knicks team, we're going to see a different Knicks team every time they come out onto the floor for a game. What I do want to see from the Knicks is how we guard James Harden. I didn't mention this before with the Charlotte Hornets, but the way we defended LaMelo Ball on pick and rolls and just him overall was unacceptable in my eyes. He literally got to every one of his spots at will. He only put up 25 points, but it felt like when I was watching the highlights of the game, it felt like he was putting up 30 points and 10 assists. So I want to see what we fix in order to guard an elite point guard like LaMelo Ball or like James Harden, which we're going to see against the Clippers. It's also going to be nice to see how we guard an elite wing scorer like Kawhi Leonard. So all these things are going to add up. Again, you mentioned Ivica Zubac. He's been having a great year in my eyes, and him and Karl-Anthony Towns should be a great battle. But once again, we don't know what we're going to see from this Knicks line or from the Knicks team when they go out to play the Clippers on Wednesday. So it's just all about these next couple of games, man, and then we're right back at it again on that Friday against the Bucks, a very scary team to play right now if you're the Knicks. So we'll just have to see how the Knicks do.
And we'll talk about the Milwaukee Bucks and all of that next week when we get to that in our next episode next week in episode number 14. But for now, this episode of Empire State Hoops has been powered by Sport Pros USA. For more information, visit sportprosusa.com or call 877-HOOPS-NJ to make your dream court a reality today. So, from everything that we've said today, there's questions that simply cannot be answered about this New York Knicks team playing without Jalen Brunson. The struggles on the defensive side of the ball have been horrendous, and the offensive side of the ball has been kind of mediocre to doing what they can right now and against a defensive opponent that has been really, really good in several of these opponents. But we'll see what happens down the stretch and see what happens throughout the rest of next week.
I do just want to say we talked about back-to-back games for the Knicks and how I actually thought that they were way worse in back-to-back games. And from now until the season ends, there's 3 different back-to-back games that the Knicks are going to play. And one of them being against the Clippers, which we just talked about. So I want to see the narrative switch between that as well, but once again, we're just going to need to see what the Knicks do.
And we'll find out, of course, what happens next week. But from here on Empire State Hoops, I'm Adam Rothschild. That is Marquise Frias. And we will see you next week. Have a great weekend. Go New York Knicks.